Well, all right there, everybody. Greetings from Just Car People Things. Mike here. Going to be working on our 2006 Mazda Miata. Newer to us, not brand new. Kind of got an ongoing series about this Miata that we've been sort of doing some kind of ticky-tack things to make it a little more livable, a little better every day. And obviously we've got some other things to keep an eye on here in the garage. But one thing I really wanted to work on was these headlights. And you can see that these are starting to kind of show their age. You know, the car is almost 20 years old now. It's mostly been stored indoors, but you can see where the sun and sort of the heat and the UV have really gotten the better of these, unfortunately. So I was looking at how to fix that, how to touch it up. Found a nice, well-reviewed 3M Ultra Headlight Restoration Kit. So it takes about 40 minutes total. You mask them off, you sand them down, you wet sand them down, and I was just going to walk you guys kind of through that process. So turn my little work light on here. We're going to start on the driver's side, open our package, and this has a little bit of everything in it. I might, just to make life easy, pull my detailing cart, grease rag there, over, and just use this as a workspace. This is kind of a handy end to this. So we've got some sanding discs, varying grits. Like this is looks like 600 or 800. So this is real light, and then it goes all the way up to 500 is our high number here. I'm guessing our finishing number is probably this guy, the 800 here. So there is even a step-by-step headlight restoration kit guide. You need to provide paper towels, a spray bottle with water, a detail cloth. I'm probably just going to grab a couple spare microfibers. And they even have a how-to video. That's really nice. This looks pretty chimp simple. So you got to clean the headlights with soap and water, which we're good here. The car's actually freshly washed. I washed it last night. We need to protect the trim with masking tape, 2 layers of tape. You got to be really careful, guys, because obviously this is a sanding disc at 500 grit. You want to be really careful around the edges of this because you could blow through that masking tape and then sand your paint, which you definitely don't want to do. You shouldn't use, paint if you've halfway done other paint jobs and all that other good stuff. You start with the 500, light to medium pressure, you sand, wipe it off. Step 7, and I'm assuming you just jump down to 800, and then, basically reduce the scratches, reduce the scratches, reduce the scratches. Finally, you get down after 4 to 6 passes, start seeing white residue, 10 to 12 passes, white lenses, and then you finish with the thinnest grit here, which is this 3000 grit sandpaper, which actually has some foam to it. And once you get down to 3000, you go through and you basically coat it with this UV protective coating. So pretty straightforward. We'll show you guys how to do it. This is one of those things. I want to say this kit cost me, I think, like 16 or 17 bucks. These are very cheap. It's got enough kit to do both headlights. We're going to grab our spray bottle here. We've got with soap and water and start masking things off. I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me mask off a headlight. It's not really super complicated. But we'll give that a shot and show you a little bit about how all this works. So as you're taping all of these up, what I would recommend, and they actually give you this nice 3M green tape, which is very good stuff. One of the things I'll note about a Miata, an NC Miata, that's perhaps a little different than, say, maybe a GX or even the S2000 that's behind me. On the S2000, the fender line is actually right here, which means this piece is metal on an S2000 or on a Lexus. Same thing. The top of the hood, there's a seal there, almost like here, you have metal on the other side. This is all plastic the whole way around, and these headlights are actually recessed underneath this plastic piece, this front bumper plastic. You can actually, get the tip of your finger under there. So when you're doing this and you're masking this off, you can take a decent piece of tape here, and what I'd actually recommend is overhanging it a little bit over that edge, and then using your fingernail tip, or even maybe like a knife or a screwdriver tip, getting that folded up underneath there, and then you're fully wrapping that edge to protect, if you want to try to work up underneath it a little bit with the drill. So that was just going to be my one quick suggestion about masking. Otherwise, you can figure out how to use masking tape in a way that is probably somewhat effective on your own. But You'll note this is also curved, so sometimes you even have to, you know, kind of work it a little bit to get around that curve. But again, I would recommend getting your fingernail or, you know, something up underneath there and pressing that so you got this nice space to work from. And you can really get a feel here for the damage in these headlights. Someone's probably tried to repair this at some point, but you're through that UV coat on here, particularly over in this corner. And one other masking note, I did double up on the bottom on the other side. I think I'll probably do the same over here. This is a very flat surface, especially down as you get down to here. And I worry with the spinning action of the drill, you could burn through that edge right along there. So you may want to think about, if you're doing an NC Miata in particular, doubling up on the tape in some of those areas where you're really going to be working, like the corners and maybe a couple of this more flat angles where that spinning drill tip there might do some damage. But with that, we'll get back to taping and prepping. Spend the bulk of your time on this. Every other step in this process is secondary to making sure you get the prep right. Much like any form of painting or body work on a car or anything like that, the longer you spend doing the prep, the better the job is going to turn out. That's just kind of a standing rule about how this always works. So just take your time, really work this in. If you got a piece that's running a little long, just tear it off, you know, come back through, use that, you can always set that aside and, you know, work this piece now and just, you know, try to do a little tiny bit at a time. You don't need to use big, long pieces of tape. You know, you're not a pro. Don't worry about being a pro. This isn't a job for a pro, though a body shop will probably charge you a ton of money for it. With that, I'm going to keep going here, and we'll be right back with you guys. All right, folks. You start with the 500. They give you a 500, an 800, and then a 3000 grit. So we're going to give this a start. You start this dry. You're supposed to do this dry. If you do start with it wet sanding, I would just mention to you, you're probably going to want to start with a lesser grit. They do tell you if this gets clogged and appears to lose effectiveness, they give you plenty of them. They actually give you like 5 or 6 of them. So we're just going to take a crack at it and just see what we can do here and just see how this looks. So we'll get this fired up and rolling. And you can see this is pretty aggressive. So we're taking off that initial layer. And now you can see why we have the tape on here and why I doubled up on the bottom in particular. And so you just want to work this at good speed. You don't need to go nuts. Probably should be wearing some sort of a mask if I was smart, because I can't imagine this plastic dust is good to breathe, but we don't do this every day. If you work in a body shop and you do this every day, you may want to wear a mask, because that's all just microplastics. Delicious. I've heard they're good for you. Okay, so we missed a little spot over here. And you can see you're getting out of the sandpaper. You could hear it. And that's why I doubled up there on the bottom for the sandpaper. So just take your time with it. Work your way across. And honestly, these are small headlights. So I don't know if I'm going to need like the extra 3 of these that they give you, 2 or 3 of these. And the goal of this is really to remove all of the existing gloss from the headlight. And so you're just going to want to work this. And now you see why I put extra sandpaper in the corners. Okay, it feels like I've gotten, well, maybe just not right there at the very base. Ooh, okay, so we tore the paper right there. I just heard it tear. So we're gonna come through, and one of the things that's suggested here, somewhere around here, right there, I put, this is a little bit of car wash soap and water, just really lightly mixed. So we're going to just dampen this cloth with that, just enough to be able to give this a good wipe down and take a look at it. So at this point, there should be no gloss left on the headlight at all. No shininess. So when you really look at it, so there we are. We got a fully scuffed down, and you can see the water drying on it here as we go. Find a dry patch of rag here, but there's no real shine left anywhere on this. And I do want to just touch up the tape right there. We just caught the edge of the tape, and they give you plenty. I mean, I did both headlights. This is a small car, but I did both headlights, and I got plenty left. But we're going to come through and just, with that happening, we're just going to throw another piece of tape right over the top of that. Just double up that protection right there. These corners really take a beating, guys. So if you're working on this and you're thinking, oh man, I'm really working these corners, that's actually the point of this. So I'm going to come through and just touch up the taping like that. Okay, well, at this stage, I'm going to go work the other one, but this guy is pretty much ready for the next step. So you can see here, there's no gloss left on it, and it's now, compared to this, totally clouded over. This is starting to get clogged, so we're just going to take that guy and we're going to swap a fresh one on. I think one of these is plenty for this work. And if you do see any spots that you're like, oh, I just missed that tiny spot, or I can't quite get in there, you can come in there lightly by hand. There's nothing really stopping you from just touching a spot up with the tip of your finger here. You know, don't use a ton of pressure. You don't want to make your life harder later, but just touch it up. Make it easy. So I'm going to jump to the other side with this. Then we're going to come back over here. We're going to keep working this one specifically, just so you don't have to see me do all this stuff twice. But I'd say right now I'm probably about 20 minutes into this, 15 minutes into this, and it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so we've done a little bit of that initial sanding, and we now no longer have any clear spots left on the lens, and that's really important. You should have a nice, even, slightly swirled looking scratch pattern. This is exactly what you're looking for right across here. From there, you move on to the white pads, and they give you 3 or 4 of these per. So like, don't feel bad if you're really burning through them. Like, take your time, do this extra. If they're really, really, really bad, take them all the way down. Every step that you spend more time on doing this will make the next step easier, and that's really important to remember when you're doing work like this. So now we're on to the 800 grit, and this feels, you can probably even hear that, feels very, very different. And so what I want to do real quick is I'm just going to do a spot mostly on this side of the light to let you see the difference when you do this. So you're going to want to use light to medium pressure, and you'll notice the color is totally different too here when you're doing this. So just take a look. You're just going to work these edges, and you're doing everything you can here to just get the headlight to where you want it to be. And again, the more time you spend here on this step and the next step, the better this is going to look. And you're just using light to medium pressure. You kind of just want enough to just sort of barely control it. Okay, so this pad's starting to look, you can see it's got some of that, it's looking kind of ugly. So they give you 4 of these, 3 or 4 of these per headlight. Use 2 per. So we're about halfway through this, but I do want to show you. So when you look at this, you'll notice that the scratching pattern, when the dust is removed, look at the pattern in this versus in this. This is starting to already look lighter and clearer. And when you come in and you make sure when you set these, if you're setting them on your paint, you set them in the right direction. But when you come in with a rag and you wipe this down to de-dust it, and we'll do the whole headlight here just to show you guys. And now you take the backside and just dry it real quick. You should notice that this looks a lot, you probably even hear the difference, but how much smoother this is when you're working it. And so this is feeling a lot better. I might finish this headlight and then do one more pass across the whole thing with the 800 and just try to get it right to where I want it. Again, more is actually better here. You know, you're never going to sand the whole way through the headlight. There's just not enough oomph in these sanding discs to be able to do that. But, you know, take your time, go through. If you see a spot that, like, you know, you're like, hey, that's not quite right, and you just need to get in there with, like, the tip of your finger and just work it, like, do it, man. Costs you nothing. I mean, the whole point of this is literally just to level and level and level. And this is how body work works, too, you know, if you're painting a panel. But you'll just notice as you go, the dust gets finer and things start to look just a little bit more like they should. And I am watching my tape lines and making sure that everything looks good. I'm glad I doubled up on the bottom in particular. The top doesn't seem like it's too bad, but the bottom on this car, you're going to absolutely want to double up on your tape. I actually tripled up in these corners, and it seems to be holding up now. So we're going to keep at it here. We're going to get this guy done. We're going to get the next guy done. We'll jump to the next step with the wet sanding with our bottle of water, where you actually spray it down and spray this down and make like looks like a slurry come off it. But then we'll go from there. So thanks for tuning in so far. Hope you're enjoying this content. Cheers. Well, here we are moving on to our final sanding step here. You're going to want to wet this pad with water, with fresh water. I rinsed any soap out of this, so this is just straight fresh water. I also just put a quick spritz on the headlight itself, because you're going to be wet sanding here. This says it may take as many as 10 to 12 passes, so if you see this start to get dry when you're working it, the first thing you're going to want to do is just grab more water. So, you know, we're going to start, and this is such a light sanding pad. And we're just going to start working back and forth here. Medium speed to low speed. And you can immediately see that this is almost jeweling this headlight. So let's do 4 to 6 passes here across the top. Medium low speed. Medium drill speed. And if you see it start to kind of build up, and you're getting some build up on here, what you can actually do is rinse it just with a spray bottle, and you can also rinse this. So that's actually a recommendation I would make. Water here is your friend. More water is probably better than not enough. So we'll come back through. That was about 3-4 passes. We'll come back through here and do the 5 or 6 passes across this top part of the lens. And you don't want to go too fast here with your drill. You're not trying to build heat up here, guys, and that's something you got to watch for. So, all right, let's take our rag here and just do a quick compare and contrast here, top to bottom, on what this is going to look like. So you can see now, the top of the lens looks swirled out, right? I mean, it's got swirls in it. But compare that to the bottom of the lens here, where we haven't sanded yet, and you can just see the night and day difference. I think this is going to take about 8 or 9 passes, maybe 10 passes, and that last couple passes you almost want to put no pressure on it at all. But the good news is this sanding disc appears to be holding up really nicely, and we'll be able to come through and do this across the bottom here real quick and get this headlight knocked out and done. We'll move to the other one. You can see what that looks like with the 800 grit scratches on it. Compare that to the 3000 grit scratches that remain along here. So very impressive to see this. They only give you 2 of these pads, so I would probably try to run this one as long as you can, and then do the other one. Get this one onto the other light. These are relatively small, and then save that last one for any last final work where you really need to get it just right. So we're gonna keep working on this probably about 30 minutes into this now. I'd imagine we're getting close to our last step, which is going to be applying the UV coat to this, and we'll go from there. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Again, appreciate you watching, and feel free to like and subscribe. Okay, after about another 10-15 minutes total of sanding and working through this process and having a ton of dust and water get splashed all over you, we are now at the point where you can see these headlights are done. And I'm actually going to pick the light up so you can see it a little bit better and get a feel for sort of what they should look like. They should still look hazy frosted and should still have a little bit of, you know, kind of color to them, like they're going to be swirled out in some areas. But at the same time, they also should, beyond looking very smooth, or should feel very smooth. In fact, it should almost feel like glass when you run your hand over it. And this is perfectly smooth, and we're in really good shape here for the application of the Headlight clear coat. So what you want to do, I'm going to set our big ugly work light down here. Sorry if it's blinding you. What you want to do is they actually give you a glove to put this stuff on. You really don't want it on your skin. But the first things first, we're actually going to, at this point, remove all of our tape and go through and see, and you'll be able to hilariously see some of the number of layers of tape we put on here to protect it. But it did so perfectly, and you can sort of see how it overran that lip a little bit, and that really helped keep the paint safe. And that's just all part of that process. So at this point, what they say is you should take a detail cloth, maybe damp, a little bit of water, and come through and wipe this down as best as you can. So I used a fair amount of water on this, and what I would actually recommend to you guys is take some time before you put this coating on to make sure that this headlight is really perfectly dry, right? So you want to just really make sure, wipe it. I'm actually really tempted to get that leaf blower right there and make sure there's not a drop of water left, maybe hiding up in one of these recesses or something like that. This guy looks much the same. You can see again it's almost glass smooth, but still has some haziness to it. Now, in a body shop process, you actually do something really similar to this, right? Where you're laying paint down on a car and you're putting a layer of paint down, and then you're coming through and you're sort of doubling up to make sure that it looks right, and it is right when it goes on the vehicle, and you then paint and you just sort of work through that process. We did get a little bit of plastic on the paint right there, a little tiny black spot. So just a heads up, be careful when you're working because it can burn through. But that doesn't look, that'll probably come right off actually, and it's almost too small to notice. But yeah, when you work in a body shop, this is what they do. They put a coat of paint on, they sand it, they wet sand it, they put a coat of clear on, they sand it, they wet sand it, and they go through this big long process of making it look right, you know, and finally getting it down to this stage where it's kind of hazy. Now, in a normal clear coat process, what you'd simply do, because there'd already be clear coat on it, is you'd come in and you'd basically polish it. You'd go and you'd get a compound and then a polish, and you'd make this just glass smooth, and it would be perfect. And it would be a beautiful, beautiful coat of paint. But in this scenario, we're not going to do that at all because we've actually removed the UV protection, all that crap that was yellow and gross, and that first run that we did to get all the coating off it. That's actually the stuff that protects this. So this is bare plastic now. What you've done is you've sanded down those layers of bare plastic down to the point where there's no UV protection on this at all. If you polish this with a regular polish and say through a coat of wax in it, it will be yellow again inside of a few months because that is how fast the UV kills this type of plastic. So you'll want to be really, really, really conscientious of that. It's also very soft. So like if you took your fingernail and like gouged into this, you'd put a huge mark in it right now, just because that's where you're at in this process. So I'm gonna scoot back over here, make sure that this is really dry, and I'm actually getting my rag wedged up underneath here to make sure that there's no lingering water or dirt around that top edge, and that feels dry, which is good. Same thing over here in this corner. And I think we're probably good to go here in the next minute or so to apply this. Oh, there's a little bit of residual tape. It's caught under that edge there, so that's good. That's why you're doing this. I'd take that edgier rag and just get in there and make sure you're really... I'm actually seeing a little bit of water moving around down there on the bottom right now. And yeah, that picked up a little bit, so we'll just make sure that's as dry as we can get it. And I think we're good to go. So I'm right-handed, I'm a righty, so we're gonna go with the right hand for the glove. And there were some specific instructions on this, starting with don't unfold the wipe. You carefully open packet, slowly apply coating using crisp edge of the folded wipe, and then you slightly overlap the passes. So this is a pretty easy, in theory, product to use, but we're going to pull this out. It says to don't unfold the wipe, and then we're going to just get up under this edge. And it says to go very, very slow. So you're almost treating this like a, and this is easy because on a Miata, there's no underlying risk. And so we'll come through here. And this is just beautiful. Look how clear. Wow, that's really cool. All right. So again, we'll just use that edge of that wipe and be very gentle as we go. Slowly but surely across to that corner. It says to overlap your passes, so we're doing that. And we'll come in here and just use the tips of the wipe to get this lower edge, just like we did up top. And you're almost like using this like a paintbrush. I mean, it really has that vibe. If you do see any bubbles, I just go back over that spot, just carefully with the edge of your wipe here. And here, we'll roll this over to get down into that edge. And this feels like we're just practicing our Picasso here, our Picasso impression. And you'll just want to make sure that it all looks nice and uniform, that you're feeling really good about it. And this flashes like really, really fast, guys. So just take it easy when you do this. So you put that first coat on, and that's how you put the first coat on. And then we'll come through and actually probably take this and 180 it for the second light here. And so you can just see how dramatic this is when it goes on. So we're gonna just come through and almost in like one motion, just work this. And we can keep working that edge. And you can actually see that overlapping pass. And you want to be really gentle with this. So you see we're getting a little bit of that spotting, that bubbling. We're probably just moving a little too quick. But we'll get down into this edge in here. And I'm actually using the, I'm gonna try to get this right here, the tip of my finger just to balance that how it should be. And get that nice and even. So you're supposed to wait 5 to 15 minutes before you come back. We're in an environment right now that's probably about 60 degrees, so it's not like mega warm. Ooh, where we're at. If you do get a little overrun on the car, just use your rag. You got a little detail cloth, microfiber, just use your rag there. But suddenly, these are, bam, looking just right, super level, crystal clear, factory. This wipe is spent. You've used the one of the two, and what you do is you come back and you can see it's streaked a little bit on this, and that's pretty normal, and that's what that second coat's going to come do for us here in a few minutes. But one thing I will often do is when you're done with this, you can actually peel this back open and just stuff the wipe right back in there, so you don't have to worry about like handling it and getting it all over your skin if you're worried about that. So I don't know if this stuff's like super toxic or super concerning to worry about. I'm assuming it's a pretty strong chemical, like a UV protection, full of VOCs, and so don't mess with that. So we're gonna do that. That's our first coat. We're gonna come back in about 5 minutes and put our last coat on. I'll jump back on camera with you guys in about 5 or 10 minutes. We'll give this enough time to really flash off and start to dry. But man, they're looking crystal clear compared to how they were before, which is awesome, especially for the 15 bucks and maybe hour I've got into this project so far. So we'll be right back with you guys to show you the last step here and go from there. Cheers. All right, well, it's been about 8 or 9 minutes here, which I think is probably enough. I'm noticing that this is flashed off and it seems pretty solid to touch right now. So again, don't unfold the wipe, and so you just leave it like this. I'll set that aside. I will say after that first coating, you may be able to see there's some streakiness in this, kind of right across here, maybe a spot that I missed, right down here in the corner where we've got some sanding scratches I might not have done the world's greatest job on. But we're going to come back through here now that we're about 8 or 10 minutes in and just do this one more time. So we're just going to come back, overlapping passes back over, and just keep going back and forth across the headlight. We had a little bubbling there, so we're just going to take it nice and easy. And you might notice that I've got this light here, and that's actually pretty intentional. So I wanted to bring this light, big ugly light, and that's going to allow us to see what we are and aren't sort of getting friendly with here. And you can see the streaks and where you may miss. So that's a kind of a critical component to this. You can actually lay the wipe almost completely flat and almost no pressure on this as you work across. And if you get a little bubbling, again, just try to work at it a little bit. And you want to just try to get this finish as smooth as possible across, especially the middle of the light where that beam is going to come riding out of there when you are driving. So with that, I'm feeling pretty good about that right now across the board. And I think that looks just about right. I don't think I've missed a ton of spots. I am going to come back and check that one more time before we're done. You probably could do this with a less obnoxious light than this. I'm definitely going full kill, but you can see, you know, like right here, for example, where it just didn't quite get full coverage in before. So we're going to work our way across, getting up underneath that edge. Same thing here. And we're going to come back the whole way across. And again, you can make a couple passes at this. There's no downside to really making sure you've got it nice and level. I'm really not worried about getting too much of this on the paint, just because these are recessed below the sort of deck level of the surrounding body panel. But we'll just come through and just really take this last little bit easy. I want to just try to work in there. And there we go. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. Oop. You just don't want to see all these bubbles. And I read that if you're seeing bubbles, you're probably going a little bit too fast. So just maybe try to slow down a touch. Flip this over. Okay, feeling pretty good about that. I don't see any glaring spots we've missed. All right, I'm gonna let this all flash off maybe for like the next minute or so, because it'll really like cook off a lot of the VOCs, and it will aerosolize, and this will start to harden. And then I'm going to check it one more time with my big ugly light here, just to make sure I didn't miss anything. And one thing I would recommend too, make sure you get up and take a look at it as well. And you sort of like kind of do the cruise around, check it from all angles with all different lighting. And yeah, guys, I got to tell you, this looks way better than it did before. I'm noticing a little spot here in the corner that I'm not in love with. So I'm just going to add a little bit more product. And again, same thing over here. We're just going to look through, see anything we really don't like. Some of this stuff's inside the lens. And a dog hair just landed on that. So super cool. Thanks, dog. But you know what? I think we're pretty much done with this project. I'm feeling good about it. And we're going to turn the bright light off here. We can put our kit away, clean up, and I think we're good to go. So this is a really straightforward process. I don't think you're going to spend too much time or money on it. Ooh, somebody's got no exhaust. You know, this is an hour-long, 45-minute project. If you're taking your time with it, you could definitely DIY this without too much. You need a power drill and a few other, you know, really basic things, and you could get really nice results. These look like brand new, and supposedly this lasts for up to 2 years. So when this goes in a couple years, you always just buy another one of these kits for 15-20 bucks and just do it again. It's really not very complicated. And honestly, that extra little bit of time on the highway may save your butt at high speeds. So don't hesitate to do this. Easy DIY project. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for liking and subscribing. It is how YouTube showers us with love. I hope you're enjoying watching us work on our super fun 2006 Mazda Miata. Absolutely great car. You should absolutely have one. Have a good night, guys.